Good day everyone, I'm Sir Aaron Timario and today we're going to discuss about the current trends and main concerns to science curriculum development and implementation in the United States and Canada. And here are the learning objectives. Letter A, identify at least three major trends in science curriculum development in the United States and Canada. Letter B, evaluate at least three concerns affecting science education implementation in both countries. And letter C, analyze the statistical variation in the most recent PISA result between the United States and Canada. So let's start with the current trends in science curriculum development in the United States. First is the STEM integration. The STEM education in the United States emphasizes real-world and cross-disciplinary problem solving. Gumagamit sila doon ng different digital tools and software like PhET simulation, Desmos, and GeoGebra. This is for interactive simulation in science. Another is the use of Tinkercad, Fusion 360, and SketchUp for 3D modeling and design for engineering projects. Ang goal nito ay hindi lang para maituro ang subject, kundi ay para ma-integrate ang STEM education and how technology connect and apply to real-life challenges. The second trend is the NGSS or the Next Generation Science Standards. In the United States, NGSS focus on more integrated, inquiry-based approach to teaching science. Hindi lang sila nakafocus lang sa pagmemorize ng mga concept, but also encourages students to engage with specific concept through real-life world applications and critical thinking. Mas mariretain kasi ang knowledge nila sa isang concept kapag sila mismo yung nag-experiment or sila mismo yung nag-apply into real-life situation. Another trend is the interdisciplinary learning. This approach emphasizes the integration of multiple subjects like how arts and physical education are related in science education. Para maipakita kung paano connected yung iba't ibang subjects sa science education, and sa pamamagitan nito, mas magiging makabuluhan ang pag-aaral nila ng science concept. Kasi nakikita dito yung importance and kung paano nila ito may apply into real life. Another trend is the use of technology and digital learning tools. Isa ang United States sa mga nangunguna sa paggamit ng different digital learning tools. Doon ay gumagamit sila ng virtual labs, simulations, AI-driven platforms, and interactive e-learning resources. So these tools enhance accessibility and engagement, making science more interactive and personalized. And the last trend is the environmental and climate change education. In the United States, they are integrating the knowledge about environmental and climate change education in their curriculum para magkaroon ng awareness ang mga students kung paano ang tamang pag-iingat sa environment. The students there are encouraged to explore renewable energy, conservation, and the impact of human activity on ecosystems. In the United States, they have school gardens, eco clubs, and field trips to connect the student with the nature. So let's move to the current trends in the science curriculum development in Canada. First is the competency-based science education. This approach focuses on student mastering specific competencies or skills rather than just acquiring knowledge through traditional assessments. Competencies in science education are the following: critical thinking, problem solving, scientific inquiry, and the ability to apply scientific concepts to real-life situations. Another trend is the provincial autonomy in curriculum design. In Canada, each province and territory has the power or has the ability to create their own curriculum. Nakabase ang kanilang curriculum sa local needs, sa priorities, and cultural context. Hindi tulad sa US na meron silang national curriculum, pero hindi naman nila ibinabawal ang ibang region na sakop nila to integrate their culture in learning science. Dito sa Pilipinas, meron din tayong national curriculum pero pinapayagan naman na i-connect ang culture, need, and interest ng isang community para mas makakonect ang mga students from different communities. Gumagamit sila for example ng kung ano yung mga traditions, yung beliefs sa isang lugar. Kasi nga, mas makakakonect ang mga bata kapag yung mga examples na ginagamit ng mga teachers ay connected sa culture and beliefs na meron sila. Another trend is the integration of indigenous knowledge and perspectives. This approach recognizes the value of indigenous way of knowing which are deeply connected to the land, community, and holistic views of the environment sa pamamagitan ng pagpapakita ng respect para sa indigenous cultures and kung paano sila makakapag-contribute na maingatan ang kanilang environment. Another trend is the climate change and environmental awareness. Same with the United States, it is also trend in Canada that they are also integrating their knowledge about climate change and environmental awareness para maging aware nga ang mga students kung paano nila maingatan and ma-conserve kung ano yung meron sila sa kanilang environment. And the last is the technology and innovation in learning. Kagaya din ng United States, isa rin ang Canada sa hindi papahuli sa paggamit ng different technological tools in learning science. Okay, so let's start to discuss the main concerns in curriculum implementation in the United States. First main concern is the standardization versus flexibility. Sa United States, isang main concern ay kung paano nila i-balance ang standardization and flexibility. Di ba nga meron silang national curriculum? Meron silang standardized assessment para ma-ensure ang consistency ng mga learnings na dapat makuha ng mga student. Pero hindi naman sila tutol na mag-adapt ang ibang mga lugar na sakop nila na maging flexible in science education. Sa pamamagitan ng pag-consider sa needs, local context, interest, culture, and availability ng resources. Kasi naniniwala sila na pareho naman na importante na dapat standard and flexible ang science education. Another concern is the teacher training and professional development. Ang mga teachers sa United States ay kailangan na merong regular trainings para makasabay sila sa technological advancement. Without proper trainings, teacher may struggle to adapt the demand of the modern science education, particularly when it involves hands-on learning, inquiry-based teaching, and the integration of interdisciplinary skills. Another concern is the funding disparities. Kagaya rin ng na-mention sa iba't ibang countries, sa United States, may mga school din na may mababang income. Nahirapan sila na magkaroon ng access sa mga bagong textbook, lab equipment, and technology. Dito, nagkakaroon ng unequal learning opportunities in different regions. Parang dito rin sa Pilipinas. Kaya tayong mga teacher, sabi nga ni Doc Ellen, dapat maging resourceful and wag na tayo yung magdahilan kung ano man yung kakulangan ng government. Tayo na mismo ang gumawa ng paraan kasi nga tayo ay science teacher. Next concern is the declining student interest and engagement. Despite of the growing importance of STEM education sa ating modern economy, maraming students ang nawawalan ng interest and engagement sa STEM education. Dahil sa traditional and lecture-based teaching methods na dapat sana ay mas interactive and more on hands-on learning. So dahil doon, marami ang nahihirapan na makita kung ano ba yung relevance or importance ng science kaya nawawalan na sila ng interest. Last main concern is the challenges in assessment and evaluation. Challenges in assessment and evaluation are major concerns in the implementation of science curricula in the United States. Yung paggamit nila ng traditional assessment like multiple choice test and written exams, hindi palaging na-access dito ng mabuti ang skills and knowledge ng mga students na nade-develop through hands-on and inquiry-based learning. Kasi nga sa science education na meron sila ay more on critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, and the ability to apply science concept in real-world concepts. However, standardized assessment tends to focus more on memorization and recall na hindi palaging aligned with the skills needed to success in modern science education. For the main concerns in science curriculum implementation in Canada, first, we have the variability in curriculum across provinces. One of the major concern in Canada is the variability of the curriculum kasi meron silang tinatawag na decentralized education system. Gaya ng na-mention kanina na each province and territory has the authority to design and implement its own curriculum. Kaya nagkakaroon ng inconsistency sa mga natututunan ng mga students, lalo na sa science subject. Dito, nag-uumpisa na magkaroon ng disparities and inequality sa mga learnings na nakukuha ng mga students. Next main concern is the resource gaps in rural and indigenous communities. Dito naman nagkakaroon ng limited access sa mga educational resources and infrastructure na available naman sa urban area. For example, yung mga outdated textbooks, kakulangan sa laboratory equipment, limited access to digital tools, lack of opportunities for hands-on and experimental learning, kaya nababawasan ang quality of science education na natatanggap ng indigenous communities. Kaya hindi masyadong nade-develop ang kanilang critical thinking and problem-solving skills na kailangan. Another concern is the teacher training and professional development. Same with the United States, isang concern din sa Canada ang teacher training and professional development. May mga teacher na nasanay na sa traditional teaching method kaya hindi na nakakasabay sa mga bagong strategies sa pagtuturo. Kaya dapat magkaroon din ng regular training para sa mga teachers para makasabay ang mga teachers sa technological advancement at yung paggamit ng mga bagong digital tools na pwedeng magamit to make the learning more interactive and meaningful. Another concern is the equity in STEM participation. Equity in STEM participation is a critical concern in the implementation of science curricula in Canada. Hindi pa rin nawawala yung disparities and access and participation, particularly for women, indigenous students, and students from low-income communities. Kaya limited pa rin ang resources and exposure sa STEM opportunities, kaya nawawalan sila ng interest and nahihirapan silang mag-success sa science education. Last main concern is the assessment and standardized testing. Same with the United States, Canada has also concern when it comes to assessment and standardized testing. And standardized tests are commonly used to measure student achievement and ensure consistency across the country. Dito sila hindi masyadong nakakasabay kasi nga meron silang tinatawag na decentralized education system. Hindi lahat ng content ay naituturo sa kanila kapag standardized test ang gagamitin. Kaya madalas nagkakaroon ng fail sa exam result. Ay nagkakaroon din ng usapin kung tama ba na standardized testing ang dapat gamitin na type ng exam sa Canada kahit decentralized ang kanilang curriculum. Hindi kasi pantay ang access ng low-income schools sa mga mayaman na areas wherein meron silang capability na magkaroon ng access sa lahat ng learning resources. So here is the representation of the PISA 2022 results comparing Canada and the United States. For mathematics performance, Canada gained 492 points, exceeding the OECD average of 472. And for the United States, they gained 465 points, that is close to the OECD average of 472. And for reading performance, Canada gained 507 points, that is exceeding the OECD average of 476. And for the United States, they gained 504 points, exceeding the OECD average of 476. And for the science performance, Canada gained 515 points, that is exceeding the OECD average of 485. And for the United States, they gained 499 points, exceeding the OECD average of 485. And for assessment questions, number 1, what are the key similarities and differences in curriculum development among the United States, Canada, and the Philippines? Number 2, how do funding disparities impact the quality of education in the United States and Canada, particularly in low-income and rural areas? Number 3, what strategies have been proposed to address inconsistencies in science curricula across Canadian provinces? And to wrap up our discussion, please watch the short video clip.
Hello and welcome to Smart Student Canada. This is the only channel that provides relevant and practical information to students who want to study in Canada. Education system, USA versus Canada. The Canadian education system. In Canada, multiculturalism, critical thinking, and a no-zero approach to grading are celebrated. Students in Canada's educational system are encouraged to develop their critical thinking skills. Using the grading system, students may see how they stay up against their peers. In other words, kids can achieve even if they don't obtain the best result on the examinations they take. Rather than end of year standardized tests, projects, and essays are given more weight, schools in Canada are more secure. On the whole, Canadian schools are much safer than American ones. According to CNN, there have been 288 school shootings in the United States since 2009, whereas there have been 2 in Canada. One factor is that ease with which firearms can be purchased. The educational system in Canada is governed at the provincial level rather than at the federal one. Depending on the student's area, this could make learning more relevant, but it also creates the possibility of provincial inequality. This is evident when students reach the post-secondary level and discover that their credits cannot be transferred across institutions in other countries. However, there are standardized tests in the United States. These are regularly used tests in the United States. The SAT is a common standardized test in secondary education. The American education system, standardized assessments and school sports plays an important role in the American education system. Sports in the US. There is a lot of interest in terms of sports in American schools. The most popular sports to watch are football, basketball, and even volleyball, all of which draw large number of crowd. In Canada, this is not the case. These activities are a great way for kids to be active and healthy, and team sports in particular have excellent benefits. Many benefits of athletic engagement such as enhanced goal shifting, increased motivation and self-esteem that results in school, healthier friendship and better mental health were found in a study of secondary schools in the United States, Norway and Iceland. 75% of these schools have a direct link between team sports and alcohol usage, according to the same study. There are various kinds of educational institutions. School kids in the American education system are more diverse than those in the Canadian system. Pupils who reside within a reasonable distance of a school are required to attend public schools. Students who pay to attend private schools, which are more difficult to get into, are expected to be better. The majority of these colleges admit students from out of the town or state if they have been accepted by the admission committee. This type of schools is a combination of a public and private school. There are a few differences between charter schools and public schools, but they are held to the same standards. There may be a waiting list for these institutions because they offer more electives. Calgary, Alberta has a maximum of 15 charter schools inside its boards. Almost 7,000 charter schools are operating in United States. Canada has 7.4% of kids in private schools, which is the highest in the world. These figures jump to 10% in the United States. Grading differences. Grading criteria for admission to university in the United States and the United Kingdom are different. The GPA or grade point average system is used in the United States. This is a 4-point grading scale that is used to all of your high school courses during your time there. A GPA of 3.5 to 4.0 is required to be the best American universities, which means that students must have received an A or above in every course they have taken. In contrast, the percentage system is used in Canadian schools. Your grade or percentage in a particular subject is based on all of the work of your performance throughout the year. Only a small fraction of Canadian universities take into account the percentage of students who graduate from high school in grade 12. The only courses available to them are those relevant to the designated major.